Father, we thank you for another opportunity to dive in to the Bros to Men podcast. I pray that in this moment, you allow lives to be changed. Let this word reach them as this blessed us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let's get it.
If I call you bro, that means I love you, bro. That means I'll go to war with you.
Fire, baby.
The reason why you need to know your identity is because when you know who you are, people don't get to define it for you. When I tell you guys who you have in your circle is important.
You're listening to the Bros to Men podcast with Cameron Persad, Jeff T. Osborne, and Roy Rand.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bros to Men podcast, where we give you content that inspires
Action. Come on now.
I'm here with my boys right now. I'm not even going to hesitate. We're going to dive into it. This is the most lethal thing that you could not have in your life that will absolutely destroy your life. I'm going to say it again. If you're catching this and you're watching this, if you don't have this thing in your life, it will destroy you faster than anything else. And we're talking about today,
What is
the word accountability.
Okay.
We gonna dive in and talk about accountability. Now, I made a big claim at the beginning of this podcast, fellas, how this topic, this idea of accountability is so crucial, that if you don't have this, I've seen so many people's lives be destroyed by it. So let's just bring this into the Bros to Men lab. We here in the lab, as you know, always we got our boy Solomon on the mic.
Yep,
Solomon, say what's up to the people.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Yes, sir.
Come on. Now, we're going to dive into this. We're talking about accountability. Now, if you guys didn't check this or catch this, in the beginning of our intro, you'll see that I think that's the first word that comes up is the word accountability. Cam, when we talk about accountability, what does that mean to you, bruh? And why do you think that was such a pivotal place or a point, even that we put it in our intro?
I think it's the gasoline to achieving your goals.
Yep.
Like literally, I think it's being willing to be called out when you're not meeting expectations and doing what you said you were going to do. I think it's being truthful and honest with yourself when you're not doing what you said you were going to do. And taking accountability or taking the blame for why you're not getting results. Taking a deep look at yourself and say, I have been not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I am the reason to blame. I'm not doing my job. I'm not doing what others are expecting me to do. I'm not carrying my weight. All the above. That's hard, Cam.
Yeah, it's not easy at all. That's why people aren't accountable.
Yeah, that's the reason why, bro. That is the reason why.
So you say that was hard, Dips. Why do you say it's hard?
Because you have to admit that it was your actions are the reason why this result didn't happen, or your actions are the reason why this bad thing happened. And I think we were fortunate to be in work environments where you had to be accountable. Me being a medic, working 911, you had to be on point because people's lives are on the line. And if you aren't prepared and if you mess something out, we have this thing afterwards called a caucus.
Yeah.
Where you get together and the fireman, the medic, your partner, whoever it is, they're going to call out, hey, we could have did that better next time. Or, yo, you messed that up. You shouldn't have gave that medicine. Or you did this.
But you know what's crazy, though, about being in circles like that?
Yeah.
They don't care about the excuse.
They don't
care about the excuse.
100%.
They don't care why you weren't accountable. Just you weren't accountable.
It wasn't, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It didn't get done.
Doesn't matter.
And there's no running. There's no nothing. It's just simply, I messed up. Fix it.
It's like sports. Why weren't you here? Why did you miss your assignment? I just missed it. Right? I just didn't do my job.
Yep.
I dropped the ball. I think that's the hard part because you're now having to admit that maybe you operate at a lower standard than you thought you did.
Ooh.
That identity we talked about.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about sometimes the tough part of being in a relationship when your girl starts calling you out on stuff.
Boy, you
That's accountability.
Yeah.
When I left this morning, you told me you can do X, Y, and Z. What happened? Damn, I even got an excuse for you. I just didn't do it.
I just didn't do
Yeah.
it.
You got me.
You got me. Hey, but how hard is it though? And there's some of us, and I say some of us because it took.
Yeah.
I'm including myself in that, right? It takes a while for some of us to get to the point to where you accept or you say I'm sorry or I apologize. Like it's like your mouth don't even form in the direction to be able to say I'm sorry, or you feel stupid. You know what I'm saying? Being able to say I'm sorry. So they got all these memes that black people do after they did something sideways or they beat you and it wasn't even your fault, and they find out later that wasn't your fault, or you in the room and you and all this stuff, and they come in, they open the like, I'm going to McDonald's. You want something? Like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, that was their way of saying, my bad, I'm sorry. But was that really taking accountability? Like, was that really, you know what I'm saying?
Nah.
And does that, or go ahead. Whoa.
Partially.
How?
Partially. I have a problem saying I'm sorry.
Why? Okay, wait. Why?
Because I just feel like it puts me at a vulnerable position to admit that I was wrong. Because, I want to feel like I got it together.
Right.
But it's those words like I'm sorry or I apologize. So a lot of times I'll come at it in a different direction and be like, yeah, my fault. That right there. Yeah, I messed that up.
Yeah.
My bad, dog. Or I'll say something like, next time I'll do this instead. But what is it about that word, like, I'm sorry, that brings emotion to such negative emotion where you just don't want to spit it out?
Because it puts you under the spotlight for something you're not proud of.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And that's a difference, right?
Okay.
So we talk about putting ourselves out there. We put stuff out there that we're proud of. We put work out there we want people to see. We talk about social media. We add stuff.
Highlight reel.
We add stuff to the highlight reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now you're asking me to come under the spotlight for something I don't want to take the ownership of.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Okay. I'm trying to think in my mind exactly what you said. Like the moment where you don't want to take ownership for where you messed up. You don't want to take ownership.
And I think it's an ego thing too, like Dips mentioned, right? So I think it's like, imagine they're showing you these results. And essentially it's what it is, right? They're showing you results that you produced and you're not proud of the results. And yet you have to say, I produced those results without the excuse. Just, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. It didn't go according to plan. I dropped the ball. I operate at a lower standard than you have for me. It's tough. It's even like, I don't know any area that someone has ever been called to the mic to answer for something or to be held accountable for something, and it was easy, whether it's in sports and they're winding the film and you dropped the ball on something. I don't care if it was at work. You were supposed to produce A, B, and C. The results aren't what they were supposed to be. And in relationships, personal friends. But as uncomfortable as it is, let's talk about how important it also is to have people in your circle to hold you accountable.
Hey, go ahead, Yaki. You talk, because I'm looking something up right now.
Think about that as a definition. You know how JL do.
It's everything and that's why, I love being around people who play sports or in the military, because we've all been held accountable in front of the group to where it is embarrassing, but it creates the change that you need. My boy, Casey, shout out to Casey. He's the head coach at Price High School.
Okay.
Shout out to the boys over there.
Okay.
And, when he first started his journey with the kids, they weren't picking up the plays and they weren't picking up the defense like he wanted them to, but he was holding them accountable. Look, you got to pick this up. You got to run because you ain't picking it up, doing all these things. And I remember saying like, bro, like just give him some time, you know, but he held them accountable. And you know what he said to me? He said, nah, Roy, he said, the standard is the standard.
Standard's the standard. Yep.
The standard is the standard. And at the end of the day, when you have that standard and you don't compromise, everyone's going to raise up to that standard eventually.
That's so funny you say
if
that.
you hold them accountable.
I remember in high school, like senior year, we had this football coach.
Okay.
And his whole thing was sports is a system. And in order for the system to work, everyone on the court, or in our situation, everyone on the field needs to do their job. So what made me realize this years later, not so much at the time in high school, was how important mindset is in accountability. And he used to walk around the field and he used to sing the song, right? And at first I'm like, this dude's weird. Like he would just walk past us and he would like, it was catchy. He was like, I'm doing my job. I'm doing my job, right? You'd be like, what? But when you're on the field, I found myself singing, I'm doing my job. I was asking myself, like, what is my job?
Yeah.
What is my job? What is my team expecting of me right now? And we would all be in the huddle like, I'm doing my job. Because it made you reflect, okay, on this play, what is my job? Who is my man? What is my assignment? And then we've been in high school, coming up on 20 years?
Yeah.
I'm still at work. I'm doing my job. What is my job? What is my team expecting of me in this situation? So accountability is as much of a mindset as it is anything else.
I love that because I was trying to look up some of the reasons why people don't like accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things they said is it's hard to have accountability if you don't have positional authority. It's hard to have accountability if you don't have positional authority. In other words, sometimes it's hard for us as a leader. We're trying to ask the question, well, how come my team isn't taking accountability? How come my team isn't doing what they're supposed to? And sometimes they can't take accountability because you haven't given them the authority to move how they want to move.
Accountability without authority is slavery.
Boy.
But see, that I love that because now we're connecting dots. We're putting pieces together. When you play on a team, everyone has a position, right? When you're on the field, you have positional authority because if you're the cornerback, you know what your assignment is.
Absolutely.
If you're the receiver, I know what my assignment is on this play.
Yeah.
So that kind of what I'm getting from that is that no matter what the situation is, I need to know what my position responsibilities are so that you can operate at that standard. If you don't know your position, how do you know what your roles are?
Right. So it has to be defined. It has to be clear.
Defined and clear.
So
Yeah.
if you're frustrated in an area, if somebody's frustrated in an area of their life where they're like, man, this person isn't hitting this accountability, I want them to be accountable for where they are, but you haven't defined clearly what you need them to be accountable in. If I have no clarity in accountability, then I can't move. I don't know where I've made a mistake or I don't know where I've gone wrong in. And so how many people have not produced an atmosphere where people can have accountability, or you're in a relationship where they can't take accountability for action because you haven't clarified what it requires to have accountability in that relationship.
And we haven't set the expectations.
You haven't set expectations.
We haven't set expectations.
Define the job. Define the job. So that means if I'm hearing you guys correctly, if you are a leader or if you're somewhere in a relationship and you want somebody to take accountability for your actions, well, what are the actions that are needed for me to be able to be in a relationship where it thrives? What are the actions that are needed for me to be able to thrive in my business? Because we can't assume that everybody knows or everybody understands accountability the same way you understand accountability. So now I'm in a position, in a place where you're asking to be accountable for what? But accountability to me looks different than accountability for you, Dips, or accountability for you, Cam. So maybe sometimes we're frustrated with people because we want them to take accountability, but we haven't provided clarity for what's needed.
Bro, you are coaching to me right now because I've been mad at people, especially recently in my life, for not having integrity. But integrity for me may not be integrity for them, right? And for me, integrity is doing what you say you're going to do even when no one's looking. Like just locking in and communicating. And a lot of times just people aren't like me, right? And so how can I hold someone accountable for not having integrity if we never communicated what integrity is in that situation? And so I might have to back up and go look at that. Maybe I was holding someone accountable for something that they never agreed to be held accountable for.
But you just, okay. Hold on, wait.
That's good.
Say that one more time.
I'm trying to hold people accountable for things that they never agreed that they could be held accountable for. They never even said they was going to do that.
They ain't signed up for that.
I'm thinking it just comes with it.
Ooh, I love that.
But we
So we're
never
getting
spoke
somewhere right
about
now
it.
because to me that sounds like a situationship.
Talk about it, Cam. Talk about it, bro.
Because I mean you can take that word and apply it to whatever your situationship is, right? Whether it's in a dating context, but there's situationship friendships, there's business relationships. And what that means is that we never defined what it is we're working on or towards, but we just kind of let it organically develop. And now in time, I have set a set of standards for you based on what I think the direction of the situationship is, but you never agreed to it nor signed up for it. And now you're mad at me because I'm holding you to a standard that you don't want a part of.
That's crucial.
Or I'm holding you to a standard that you not only don't want a part of it, you were unaware of it.
Unaware of it. When do we start doing this? When did this become an official business?
I expect you to do something and you don't even know what my expectations are.
Exactly.
So what we got to do?
Okay. Hold on. We go take a little commercial break. Solomon.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what's your thought on that, bro? What do you think about this idea of situationships and where we weigh in on things or we try to set these standards for somebody and they may not even know what these standards are?
You know, the funny thing is that is probably the number one cause of most arguments in male-female relationships. I mean, women will have this thing where they say, well, I did this and you didn't even do that. And basically they were expecting you to value something that they value that you don't value either at that moment or ever. And then they judge you on it based on something that you didn't even know was important to them. And then I wanted to add one more thing, going back to what you're talking about in terms of why it's hard to say sorry, because sorry means total surrender. If you think about it, that means I have no excuses. No matter what I think I did right, if I did partially right, I am basically just laying myself on the ground and saying, you know what, it is my fault. And I always have a saying for me, if it happens to me, it's my fault. And that's just how I hold accountability. It's not always true, but it gets you in that mindset of thinking, what could I have done better?
I like that. It's almost like letting go of control.
Hold on.
Yeah. Give that a solid. You got some bars on that one.
Solomon, man, that is gold.
Solomon, the wisest man.
Man.
Hey. But I love that. I love that idea of that is how many relationships get messed up because you put an expectation on me or you copy and paste an expectation from your previous relationship and you just assume that's how it's supposed to be in this new relationship. So now you're holding somebody accountable based on some other relationship that you're a part of, not even just romantically, but business-wise. Or you copy and paste. And you create these accountability levels, copy and paste off of the pain that somebody else produced in another relationship in another season. So now you're expecting somebody else to do the same exact thing.
Or we're copy and pasting things that other people said are supposed to be within our relationship. But at the end of the day, all we really need to do is communicate. Are you communicating your non-negotiables? Are you talking? Are you being accountable for laying out what you expect?
Yeah, you can't have an imaginary or an invisible set of standards. You have to communicate that. And I think we talk about that situationship. I think that's what happens a lot of times. It's like, well, you know, once this happened, it's a relationship now. Or once this happened, I assume we were locked in. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? So I think that just kind of goes to, again, emphasizing the importance of being able to communicate those standards. And I think a lot of times in many situations, whether it's in business, whether it's in personal, that communication part falls off the wayside so many times. And it just leaves room for so much assumption and or I thought or I assumed. Anytime you got to start a sentence with that, that's bad news.
Well, I assume.
I just assumed or I thought.
You assumed wrong.
Exactly.
Okay, so when we talk about this, I love this because we're talking about accountability. We're talking about why it's important for us to have accountability in our life, or we've been spending a lot of times on what accountability is. But I also want to tap on this idea of, in order to have accountability, accountability isn't just one-sided. Accountability requires somebody else, right? And it requires certain individuals for you to allow in your life to hold you accountable, aside from holding yourself accountable, but it's also having people hold you accountable for who you said you're going to be in that relationship or in that business or in that life. And there's somebody in my life, and y'all know him. it's our brother, man, Hop,
Mhm.
right? And so, man, Hop has been somebody in my life where I have been hesitant to tell him what a goal is in my life, because that Negro's gonna hold you accountable to that goal,
Yeah.
even if it kills you.
Mhm.
He don't care if it hurts your feelings. He doesn't care if you're offended by it. He doesn't care. He said, you told me this is what you want, then I'm going to hold you accountable to it. And I found myself hesitating in telling him what my vision or my goal is, because if he sees me, so I told him, man, look, I want to get in the best shape of my life. Everybody knows I love sweets. Everybody knows that. I'll post a video of me at Starbucks, and he will go like this on the screen and zoom in on the little script on the side of the Starbucks
See
cup
what that order
to see
was.
what the ingredients was.
Yeah.
He said he'll call me up like, hey, he'll screenshot the story on Instagram and then say, yo, bro, I just noticed that your drink had 3 pumps of toffee and 3
That
pumps
can
of
grow
white
with them,
mocha.
with them goals.
You said that you wanted to lose weight, bro. Like, what's up with that? Are
Yeah.
you sure? And
Yeah.
then I call myself sometimes on like, oh, that was Nadia's cup. I just did it for the photo. But accountability requires you to put yourself in the hands, like Solomon said, of somebody else to say, yo, if I fall off, you have the green light to check me in that. You have the green light to tell me that I am a liar because I'm not doing what I said I was going to do to become who I said I was going to become. So how many times do we tell people in word that we want accountability, but get frustrated when somebody actually does?
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
A lot of times. And I think also it's who's checking you. You know what I'm saying? Y'all could check me at any time. And I might feel away, but I'm like, that's bro, you got to listen up. But when someone who you perceive to be lower level checks you, you might be like, man, get out of here.
Yeah.
Right? Or it's usually, we all have, I got pops, I got moms, but we have certain people in our life who we allow to check us, but it don't feel good, man. It don't feel good. And
Wait, hold on. You mean to tell me that accountability doesn't always feel good?
Never feels good. Because you got to admit that what I said I was going to do, this was BS. It was BS. But once you get past that, then you can fix and now lock back in.
But isn't that crazy though? Because people are expecting you to just be who you say you are.
Ooh.
That's what accountability is, right?
Be who you say you
Be who you say you are. So if you're saying I'm going to be fit, if I'm applying for a job and you got my resume, everything on that resume is who I say I am, and I get called in 30 days on a job and they're like, this person on this paper and you, 2 different people.
I like the memes that say when you lied on your resume.
Right. Exactly. Because it's like, this person isn't showing up. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's like, that's essentially what accountability is. It's just people holding you accountable to be the person that you say you are.
Okay. So can I have a vulnerable, like a real moment?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's have that.
I remember when we were pastoring the church, and in everybody's eyes, we were successful. I just leveled up. I closed some deals on the side. We got a new house in La Quinta. Like we Nadia got a brand new car. Like we had the waterfall pool and we were like living.
Yeah.
And I remember Nadia was not happy. And she kept saying like, okay, I got this, I got that. And I started getting frustrated with her. And I remember I spazzed on her one day and I said to her, it's like everything I do is never enough for you. We got this, it's not enough. We got that, it's not enough. We've been to Hawaii, it's not enough. You can walk into whatever store you want, get whatever purse you want. Do you remember where we used to be? Like, look where we're at right now. It's never enough. Like, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I was ready to get to the point where I was like, yo, I don't know where we're going to go in this relationship because it seems like whatever I do that you're not happy. And it wasn't until I talked to a friend of mine, and she is absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful for this conversation because I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And, Nadia and I are just trying to figure this out. And she keeps saying this, but I'm just frustrated. And she says this, I'll never forget this comment. She goes, Jeffrey, she called me Jeffrey. She said, your wife isn't nagging you. What she's telling you is is that the person that you said you were going to be before we got married and the lifestyle that you said we were going to live, this is not that. So what you're calling nagging is actually accountability, because your wife is saying you're incongruent with who you said you were going to be when we first got married. And I wonder how many relationships are getting ruined because we are mistaking accountability for nagging.
Ooh. So did you settle somewhere along the way? Is that what it was?
Bro, you hit the nail on the head. Because sometimes being accountable to the person that you say you're going to be is tiring.
Yeah. It's easy to say it's not so bad.
It's
better than where we were.
Oh, bro.
It's better than what we had, right? Yeah.
Bro, you hit it. That was the number one lie that I told myself that got me out of accountability and taking responsibility is at least we're not where we used to be. We're not in a house where we didn't have any furniture, one heater. Now we got a pool, we got a waterfall, you got a new car. Like, it's not bad. We're better than where we used to be.
That's not where you said we were going to be.
You're going to have me run around this studio right now.
Yeah.
And accountability says that I see that you may have been complacent in where you're at, but where you're at is not where you said you were going. So here's my question. Two-sided, because I want to get into this because I think it's going to be like, I think this is going to be fire, probably one of the best episodes we've done, because I'm thinking about how many people are saying, I don't have the gifting, I don't have the talent, I'm in the wrong city, I'm in the wrong industry, and you're gonna walk away from a God-given opportunity for you to become successful, not because you don't have the ability, but because you lack accountability. So one of the words that we talked about with accountability is responsibility. Let's talk about what it means to take responsibility for where we are. What does that look like? And what is required to take responsibility for where you are?
I tell you what it looks like. It looks like your hands on the steering wheel, looking through the front windshield instead of the rearview mirror. Because at the end of the day, you're driving this car, and so if we hit a cone, if we go off the road, if we make a wrong turn, it comes down to the driver, the person who was driving this car. And so I think a lot of times, like we talked about in the cars, when people run away from responsibility because they feel blame, right?
Okay.
They feel this weight of blame, like it was my fault that something bad happened. But it is. That's true. It is your fault. But if you don't look at it that way and don't feel shameful, if you look at it as responsibility is a tool to let me know no matter what, I just got to decide what to focus on, because I can change anything in my life because I'm in the driver's seat.
I like that. You know what I think it looks like? I think responsibility looks like ownership. People don't wash rental cars.
Ooh.
You know what I mean by that?
Hold on, say that again. Hold on.
Oh no.
People don't what?
People don't wash rental cars.
Jesus.
Why? Why don't you wash rental cars?
Because it ain't yours.
Come on, man. I don't give a crap about something that ain't mine.
Oh.
People do not wash rental cars. Responsibility is ownership, right? When you own something, your connection to it is different. You care about how it operates. You care about how it looks. You care about the function. Every little thing that goes wrong, you want to take care of it. It's yours. So take ownership of the things that you are responsible for, and the level of care that you will put into those things is completely different.
Ownership.
People don't wash rental cars for different. I got to take this back. It's not mine. I don't care how it runs, how it looks. It's not mine. The level of connection I have to it is completely different from something that I've saved up for, put blood, sweat, and tears in order to obtain, something that I pinned up on my vision board and prayed on and manifested for years until I had it, right? Completely different. You don't do that for rental cars.
So take ownership of your goals. Take ownership of your
ownership. There's a reason why people don't care about the things they rent, right? So it's funny because in the community where I live, we can always tell the difference between a condo that is rented and a condo that is owned and the homeowners that live in. You can always tell the difference. The owners are out there pulling weeds. They're out there painting stuff. They're out there manicuring the lawn. The people who rent, everyone in the community hates them. Why? There's trash outside. There's loud music. They don't care if the police come through. They don't care about any of the stragglers or people trespassing. There's a difference in ownership and renting. One, you're investing, and the other one, you're just occupying until something better comes along.
Wait. One, you're investing.
Yeah, and the other
one, you're just occupying.
You're just waiting until the next best thing comes
I
along.
got a question. Are some people just occupying relationships because they're afraid to be alone, all the while they're still looking for what they really want to be in? They're in a situationship.
What are you just occupying instead of investing in?
Boy, Cam. And that's the truth. How many of us live a life like we're renting instead of having ownership of our life and investing? That is powerful,
What
bruh.
is keeping you from investing in the things that you want? Why aren't you investing in a relationship? Why aren't you investing in the things that you have on your vision board? But instead, you're just occupying, like you're just taking up space. You're just taking up time while looking for the next best thing instead of investing in that thing to make it the next best thing. Like you're not willing to invest to improve what you have, right? So in other words, you don't want to invest in the fixer-upper. You're just I'd rather just occupy and rent the space that's, good to go and has everything I desire, although it requires no effort of mine or I didn't have to invest into it.
You want to be at the finish line now.
So when we look at this idea of taking responsibility, I love how you talked about ownership. And you guys know when I talk about it all the time, I just released my new book, Prison Break, 7 mistakes to avoid that keep us chained in the prison of people pleasing. And I think probably one of these episodes we got to dive into
absolutely,
people pleasing and what that looks like, and even the book. But one of the things that I had to come to the realization is I'll never forget this. I'm sitting at this, okay, so watch this. This is uncomfortable, right? I'm sitting at this table with all of these like guns. There's a billionaire at the table, 2 multimillionaires at the table. I'm the brokest one in the room, right? And I'm sitting there and I'm talking about my life and I'm talking about what's happening. All of a sudden, this guy who's a billionaire, I said, man, I'm just frustrated because, I've been looking for my tribe and it feels like everybody that I've been around has been abusing me for my gifting, but didn't really care about my destiny. They wanted my gift. They didn't care about me. And, and I'm just tired of people constantly pulling on me and doing that. And he walked over and put his hand on my shoulder. He said, but you allowed them to.
Right. Yeah.
You allowed that person to continue to abuse you because you thought you were going to get something out of it. And it's not until you take responsibility for where you are, for who you allow in your life and how you allow people to treat you, that your life will change. And part of this idea of accountability and taking responsibility is what Stephen Covey says. It's hard for people to say you have what you have, you live where you live, you have the lifestyle that you have solely because of nobody else but you. And part of taking responsibility is understanding that you have allowed people to treat you a certain way, and that's why they keep doing it. People will only do what you allow them to do in your life. And so part of having accountability for where you're going in life is taking responsibility for where you are. There's a statement that I was training a company and we were talking about accountability, right? And this idea of accountability is so crucial because I said accountability uses responsibility to demolish the statement, this is just the way I am. Ooh. Accountability uses responsibility to demolish the statement, this is just the way I am. How many people, and talk on this, fellas, how many people stop themselves or use an excuse to not be accountable or take responsibility with the line, this is just the way I am?
Or why is it so important to demolish that that's just the way I am? And the reason I would think so is because a lot of times just the way you are isn't good enough. Like, we don't have to complicate. It's just not good enough. Like it kind of reminds me of like let's say high school sports, you're trying out for a team, and you're the one guy who just was just relying on that skill, and you went and you tried out, and the dad comes up there and is like, why didn't my son make the team? He's just not good enough.
Yep.
Sometimes you just don't meet the standard. And I think that's why you have to be okay with accountability, because you might get around people who choose to live their life at a higher standard than you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And you might try to dabble or take a little piece here, take a piece there. But you always hear that saying, like, you're not really about that life.
Mm.
You ain't really about that life, right?
Yeah.
Because of the sacrifice that
Yeah.
comes along with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
like sometimes it hurts to accept the fact that just the way I am
Ain't it?
isn't good enough. Just the way you are does not meet the standards of how I choose to live. my
Okay.
life.
So let me play the devil's advocate, Dips.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know the childhood I was raised up in. I've got trauma, and this is just who I am because this was how I was raised. What do you say to somebody who says that?
You'll always be able to find a reason, a justification, or explanation on why you can't meet the standard. You will always be able to find it. And you'll be right, but you won't be successful. And at the end of the day, accountability gets through all of those options, and it just makes it binary.
Mm.
Do you meet the standard or don't you?
Mm.
And if you don't, work on yourself, meet the standard, or get the step in, quit. And it's easier for people to say, I got this, I can do this, I have this trauma, I'm doing my best, but nah, your best ain't good enough. Don't do your best, do what's required.
Ooh.
And what it's gonna take is you maybe happen to get Jeff to coach you, and you're gonna have identity death and step into a new identity.
Mhm.
And when you step into that new identity, you will grow into being the person you need to be to meet that standard. But you can't do that until you put your feet 10 toes down into the mud of responsibility.
Yeah, I think we overcomplicate things. Like when people say, well, I haven't, I can't do this, or I have. The only reason why you are not operating the space you want to operate in is because you are just not made the decision to rise to that
You
level.
haven't made the decision.
You haven't made the decision to operate at that level. That's all it is.
I think that when we talk about trauma, because we all have traumatic situations, trauma just, again, it doesn't mean that you were beat only or you were assaulted, whether
Mhm.
physically or sexually. I think that trauma can be anything that was traumatic to you at any season of your life, regardless of what that is. And I think the biggest enemy to accountability and responsibility is that we use trauma as an excuse to stay the same.
Mhm.
And it's imperative for us to understand that you could not have changed, or you cannot have determined what happened to you then. You could not have controlled what happened to you in your life, but you do get to control who you become after that situation. You get to decide that I'm no longer going to allow this trauma to define me in my life. My dad grew up in a situation where his father, was really rough with him and very hard with him. And my dad was in the military, so he was really rough and hard with us. And a lot of the times that didn't get the point across. But as a father, I didn't get to say that just because I was raised like this, it's my responsibility to carry on that toxic trait.
Yeah.
And so I had to take the responsibility and say, yeah, I had some traumatic things happen, but guess what? I get to decide how I'm going to move forward. Am I going to allow that to continue on in my life? Or am I going to do the hard work that says, no, this is not the way I am. This is how I'm choosing to be. And so I get to change what that is, no matter how hard it is, no matter what I've got to go through it. I've got to take the responsibility that how I'm showing up isn't how I said I want to be. And no matter how hard it is or what it takes, I'm going to change so I'm not defined by that.
Yeah, trauma doesn't have to be a life sentence.
Boy.
And I think that's one of the things a lot of people struggle with, is that we feel because it happened or because it happened to you, you have to hold on to it for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Or that becomes your identity.
Literally took the words out of my mouth. It does not have to be your identity.
Yeah.
It can become a learning point, something that you learn from, that can maybe be that disruption, like we talked about in the previous episodes, to redirect maybe to a catapulter to spring off into a new area of your life. But trauma is not a life sentence.
Nope.
And I think that's something you have to learn within itself as well. And I think there's two type of people. Is one who experience the trauma, take the lesson from it, you know, and go on and live to tell their story and share their experiences with others. And there's those people who carry it around in their backpack for the rest of their life.
So when it comes to that idea, right? When it comes to trauma, when it comes to changing, we've been blessed to be able to have each other in our life. And we talked about it in numerous podcasts where there was moments where we had to let each other know, like, yo, you ain't cutting it. You ain't cutting it for the quality of where we say we're going to be, for who you say you want to be. You're going to have to level up and have those ugly conversations. For somebody who's here, who's listening, and they don't have anybody in their life to keep them accountable, or they're looking for somebody, what are some quality traits of somebody in their life that's a good person to keep you accountable? What are some of those? What do you look for when you're looking for an accountability partner? That's a phrase that you hear, accountability partner. What are some signs or indicators that this person is a great person to keep me accountable?
I think that's where coaching comes in and where coaching is so valuable.
Yep.
So if you don't have the friends, or you grew up, let's say I grew up in this environment, man, where I grew up seeing the people that I don't want to be like opposed to the ones I do want to be like. Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, I think that's where coaching is so important, because I like to say, go get counsel, not advice. Yeah. And the difference is when you go get counsel, you're getting counsel from someone who has achieved and has done the things that you want to outdo. Mm-hmm. So, you know, find someone who has high standards for themselves, find someone who operates at a high capacity, someone who holds themselves accountable, because people who hold themselves accountable hold others around them accountable. Mm-hmm. They go hand in hand. I'm not going to wake up every day, bust my butt, hold myself accountable, and you're just going to be acting a dang fool around me. Like, it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. So those people live their lives at a certain standard. And I think you just got to go out, find someone who has obtained the things that you want. And one thing you will find about successful people who are operating their passion is they love talking about it.
Yeah.
When people have gotten it out the mud and they're like, yo, I want to be like you because I see you live your life in a way that I admire. Do you mind sharing those principles? I guarantee you they love talking about it. Mm. And because especially if you're someone who has that desire to want more, chances are they're going to see parts of themselves in you. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they love sharing those opportunities. So I say coaching. Okay. Find someone who has what you want, lives their lives by certain type of principles that you like, and I think they'll be willing to share them with you.
Yeah. What about you, Dev?
Most people don't want to hurt people's feelings. And so they tiptoe around saying things or tiptoe around conversations. But we all read Fierce Conversations a long, long time ago. And there's a way to approach fierce conversations. But I would say the quality that that person needs is the ability to have conversations with you despite that it's going to be uncomfortable having that conversation. You know, knowing when to approach to have the conversation, how to approach, tonality, like knowing how to change your voice to where, all right, we just switched it up, you know, maybe we were laughing, then boom, hey bro, tell me about this. What's going on here? You know? And like AB says, having kumbayas. You gotta have a kumbayas where your boys can say, you, hey, right there, you did that. We don't mess with that. And I can, admit. And so yeah, I think just someone who has to be able to someone who could tell you got a booger in your nose.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for real. Like, it's funny you said that because I'm laughing because I just had a recent conversation where I was with some people and someone's like in the group had really, really bad breath. Right. So what happened was when the person with the funky breath went over here, everybody else was like, yo, y'all smell that? So it was kind of like, who's going to be the person to tell them that they foul? Right. And it's like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it either. I don't want to do it. So it's like, that's why I was laughing when you brought that up because I'm like, I just had a conversation with like, are you doing them the favor by telling them? Or are you the mean guy because you let them know like, hey, bro.
Why don't people let somebody know they got food in their teeth or they don't
want to hurt their feelings?
Is that what it is?
Like, that's what it is. Bro, if I got a booger and you don't tell me, bro, you let me turn on these lights.
And you got a little flicker that's
and they over there just staring at it the whole time you talking, just looking at it. Just watching it hang. Like, It's crazy because it's true. Like, why are people like that? Why do we?
Austin Powers when he had the mole.
Yeah, like why do we do people like that? Why do we do people like that?
A lot of times I'll bring stuff up in a funny way. I'll be like, oh, so that's what we're doing today. We ain't doing our hair. All right. You know, like just like a way to banter, but like, oh, good looking, you know? But just figuring out a way to let people know straight up.
I think one of the best things that I had to realize when it comes to somebody that you give permission to speak into your life, accountability means you give somebody the permission to speak into your life.
Yeah.
And you can't be accountable if there's no-go zones.
Ooh, okay.
What's a no-go zone?
A no-go zone is the area that you don't allow somebody to talk to. I'm going to give you a case in point. I've been married now. We'll complete our 16th year of marriage and be going on our 17th year next month, right?
Congratulations.
I appreciate that, big dog.
Wow.
And then April will be 20 years that Nadi and I have been together. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things in most marriages that we had to get off the rip, like straight up, is if you're married to me or we're in a relationship, there's no such thing as a no-go zone. No-go zones for most women, and it may be for men, but you're going to get it most of the time with women, is when it comes to how they look with their weight. Everybody makes it a joke. Comedians make it a joke. Or when it comes to how they're dressed, if you don't think they look good, they tell you, oh, just tell her whatever she wants to hear. Happy wife, happy life.
Nah.
Yeah.
There's a standard.
Bruh. But the biggest mistake is no, my weight is a no-go zone. You can talk about everything else, but if you talk about my weight, now you're being rude. Now you're being insensitive. Now you're doing this. Or as a husband, if you're not providing financially, don't talk about the finances. That's a no-go zone because you're challenging my manhood.
Right.
Are they challenging your manhood or are they challenging the standard because you've settled? It's the same way, right? And so in order for us to have pure accountability, we have to demolish the no-go zones and make everything fair play. Everything can get hit. Everything can, every area can get it. Nothing is safe from me calling you to the carpet because at the end of the day, I want what's best for you. And I think that is the area when it comes to accountability, what robs us of being able to step into that is that we forget that the other person or our spouse or significant other or that mentor or your parent for the most part, but the people who are close. And you know these individuals, I'm going to hold you accountable because I want you to win. And we lose sight and we make them the enemy and forget that they're actually for me. And so one of the things that Nadi and I had to do, and we had this conversation today, that there was a moment in our life where we had to recognize and say, look, if you're calling something out, you're not doing it so that you can hurt me. You're doing this so that you can help me because nobody wants the best for me like you want the best for me.
From a place of love.
It's coming from a place of love. But when we have insecurities, we put up no-go zones, and guess what's going to happen? That one area that you're not going to get coached in, that one area that you don't allow nobody to touch, the one area that you won't allow nobody to go to, that's the area that you're going to fall, and that's going to create this mold or this gangrene that's just going to go throughout your whole entire life and affect all the other ones. So in essence, the no-go zones create the ecosystem in which you fail in.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That creates the atmosphere that you fail in where you say, you can't touch that. So if you're saying that you want accountability, one of the things that we make very clear is I say, yo, look, I only got two in our lives, and we know this. We only got two categories that we place you in. You either family or you're an acquaintance. If you're an acquaintance, because I'm not going to hold you accountable in all these different areas. It ain't my responsibility. You didn't give me green light or permission to speak into your life. But if you family and I call you into my circle, I want you to know what accountability means. It means I'm going to call you out. It's not going to be comfortable, but you need to know that it's coming from a place of love. And I think this is where lives begin to change, where you offer yourself to be accountable to people. And accountability means you're taking responsibility for your actions, responsibility for what they're saying, and you're not playing the blame game. You're not blaming your mom, your dad, your sister, your brother, your ex, your boss. You're not claiming your brother. You're not
It's
claiming
everyone's fault but yours.
Yeah, it's your fault.
Yeah, right.
And so even when somebody treats you bad, if you get bitter, it's still your fault. So I think this is one of the huge things in responsibility that happens and allows us to go where we need to go. So let me ask you this lastly. If somebody is watching this right now and they say, okay, by me taking accountability and taking responsibility, what can I expect to happen in my life? What is one benefit that you guys have seen that comes with accountability and responsibility?
Ownership. Like just the fact that you can say if things go great, it's because I made the sacrifices. I put in the ownership. I put in the work, and I could take ownership of those results. But the same holds true when things go bad. If you can be honest with yourself and hold yourself accountable and say, I'm the reason why things are so bad. I haven't been congruent. I haven't been doing what I said I was going to do. I got off my diet. I've been eating like crazy. I can't be mad at anybody at myself for putting on 12 pounds over the holidays. Yeah. It's ownership. And I think that's a really, really powerful feeling. I think a lot of people put their heads down when things go negative. But how powerful is it to say that you have 100% full responsibility over your results?
Yep. That's power.
That's power, bro. So whether I lose the weight or I gain the weight, I have 100% control over that. That's ownership. And I think if you can get ownership over your results, what can hold you back? That's a powerful, powerful place to be in. What do you think, Dips?
Growth.
Growth is huge.
I think that accountability is the soil that you need in order to grow in any endeavor. In a relationship.
That's good, bro.
In goal chasing. Because if the standard is a level and you're down here, you got to stand on your accountability and the accountability of others holding you accountable in order to grow up to that standard. And, you know, it's crazy how you talked about acquaintances, friends, and family. I think a lot of times people who move from this section into the family section are kind of hit hard by that accountability because you family now. You don't get this
I'm gonna let you know.
Start getting called out.
And I just want everyone listening to know that those people love you. They love you. That's why they're speaking up. That's why they're calling you out. That's why they're holding you accountable, is because they love you. Everybody else that they don't love, they don't have high standards for them because they're just acquaintance.
I love that. And I think when it comes to accountability, it's understanding also there's a difference between constructive criticism and constructive correction.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And I think I hate the word constructive criticism. To criticize means to ridicule. It means to tear down. It means when you criticize somebody, you are pointing out the flaws in them with no ability or intention to try to build up. For me, I look at constructive correction. Yeah. When it's constructive correction, that means I am building something up and I'm correcting you because I'm helping you build. And if somebody is in your life that's constantly tearing you down and calling it constructive criticism and telling you who you're not, telling you where you're wrong, but they're not offering any solutions to be able to help you out.
That's a hater, bro.
That's a hater.
That's a hater.
That's a hater. That's not an accountability partner.
That's a hater.
That's a hater right there.
Yeah.
And so don't believe the hype or the lie of a hater that's constantly telling you what you're doing wrong, but is not offering anything to help build you up. If they're constantly tearing you down and beating you up and calling you names and saying, hey, yo, I'm just keeping it 100 with you now, you just hating on me.
Yeah.
If you want to help me, then show me where my blind spot is, show me where I'm messing up, and then help me with some ideas on how to build up if I can't come up with that mindset to be able to do that. And I think it also plays into heavily spiritually too. And I think this is why people don't like following God or following the Bible and would rather call something the universe.
We need an episode on that, bro. That bothers me so
Bro, because people want the universe because the universe isn't going to give you accountability. It's not that you don't believe God exists. It's that you don't like the God that you know exists because he holds you accountable for your things. So if I pray to a stone, if I pray to the universe, if they can't talk back. They can't tell you wrong, but there's a God that tells you how you're walking, how you're living is wrong. So I'm going to hold you accountable to that. And I don't want the accountability, but I want the blessing. I want the anointing that comes with it. So let me just pray to the universe who can't talk back. Let me pray to these stones that don't talk back. And you miss it in your life. And so I'm spiritual. So I'm just saying that grinds my gears, but I think
could tell, bro.
Hey, we did it. Hey, that's
I'm
the
just
first clip I'm dropping.
Yo, look, I'm just saying that part of that accountability, that if you don't want accountability, but you want to go deeper to God, you ain't gonna have it. And accountability is part of you growing in your spirituality as well.
Standard's the standard.
It's the standard, it's the standard. Let me ask you this, we got a couple minutes left on this. Solomon, based on this conversation in this podcast, what are you walking away with when it comes to accountability and responsibility? What spoke to you on this episode as you've been listening?
Let's see if I got there I am. Oh, well, for me, responsibility is sort of the action word from accountability. I think accountability establishes, where you've gone wrong, and responsibility is the action word to decide what you're going to do.
Talk about it.
That's always the way I look at it.
Yeah.
The saying in my life has always been, in order of the things that I'm responsible for and accountable for is first my word, second myself, third my family, fourth my friends. And so that's the way I look at it. Anything that I give my word to basically means that it's something that I'm saying I'm going to be responsible for and accountable for. And that includes your family, obviously.
Yep.
So that I put above everything. That I think, determines your integrity. It determines who you are, and you want to be around people like that. I enjoy all of these conversations because, I learn from it. A lot of the ways that I learn is just from looking at life. And then it's like you guys sort of put cement bricks in all the things that I've been sort of looking at anyway. So yeah, that's what I'm getting out of it. That
I'm our producer right there, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's clap it up for
our producer right there. Come on, Solomon. Talk to the people.
Business.
Come on.
Standing on business.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so listen up, guys. This has been another episode of the Bros to Men podcast. As you listen to this, anything that you hear that is blessing you, or that you hear, share this podcast with somebody who needs this, and follow us on all of our socials, and follow us at Bros to Men podcast, right? What the Instagram handle?
Bros to Man Show. It's a 2 instead of TO. Bros 2, the number Man Show.
Yes, sir.
Share this, man. Well, again, we appreciate y'all rocking with us. Yep. Thank you for being with us in this lab where we keep dropping more content so you can have action.
Hey, we working.
Yes,
we working.
Accountability.
We doing it.
We working.
Hey.
More on the way.
Consistent.
Let's go.
All right.
Love y'all.
Love y'all. Peace.